for USA Radio News, I'm Tim Bird.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Hey, welcome to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada and the world's Freedom Talk Radio. And I just heard we're now available on the Reason podcast.
Reason.fm.
Reason.fm podcast.
Right.
And
very beautiful platform they have over there. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, they do a good job over there. I don't always agree with them 100%, but they do a great job over there. And well, you know, what's today? January 5th? That makes tomorrow
January 6th.
Why
does that?
Yeah, I know. Something about an insurrection.
Well, some are calling it an insurrection.
Right.
We would call it an open house.
And it's been Donald Trump came out and labeled 2021 yesterday the year of misery. So I guess
because I don't think there's ever been an insurrection that didn't involve weaponry.
Right. No
weapons were confiscated.
No, there were no but they threw a fire extinguisher at somebody. He got 5 years, I think.
Yeah, but as it turns out, the fire extinguisher didn't exist. That wasn't what happened.
No, I'm not talking about the one that killed.
Oh, that's right. There was
There were a couple of fire extinguishers tossed around at the cops, and a couple of flagpoles were used to inflict, some battery on the police. But it, compared to a lot of demonstrations, it was relatively mild.
But it was the result of the election fraud, which was plainly seen by everyone who wanted to see it all over the country. And now we have a bona fide investigation in Georgia.
Okay.
Secretary of State Raffensperger.
He's on the hot seat.
Has now initiated an investigation. We had election ballot harvesting there.
In Georgia.
And we've got film of it. We can see the guy pushing the ballots in the middle of the night. He got paid $45,000 for it, and he's talking.
Okay. But, Donald Trump, he was so mean to him, and when he called him and said, "Can't you find 12,000 votes?"
Well, I think Raffensperger is sensing which way the wind is blowing here.
Yes, and it's not at his back.
And Brian Kemp probably is vulnerable in the next. In fact, I think he does have an official challenger, doesn't he?
I think so.
From the Republican side. So he probably senses where this is going. And now he's sticking his neck out. He wasn't doing that before. We'll take it, but we won't.
We won't forget.
Give him a lot of credit for it. Yeah.
So the the red wave is probably coming this fall. Do we have any other predictions that we want to go out on a limb on? Will there be continuing inflation all through the year?
Oh yeah, I don't see any hesitation for that. It's going to have an extraordinary impact on the general population, even if they haven't noticed it yet. They will. And it's either a recession or inflation, one of the two.
Right.
They can't do both. The Fed doesn't have that kind.
No, it only has limited choices, contrary to what some people will tell you, and it's running out of those choices. Yeah.
And they shouldn't have those choices. But they do.
Yeah, they do.
This is what the founding fathers were concerned about, was providing a mechanism for central banking to do just what they've done now for 100 years, roughly 100 years, and they shouldn't have that authority. That's what the founding fathers were trying to get around.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't listen to what the founding fathers say anymore.
I know that the first Bank of the United States was vetoed by one vote. Vice President George Clinton, not to be confused with the...
No relation?
No relation.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Okay. So that was a very close vote in the Senate, but he cast the vote against it. He was a Jeffersonian. And then Andrew Jackson, of course.
Andrew Jackson.
The big fight.
Yeah.
With Nicholas Biddle.
And he was
the banker.
Jackson was singularly focused on that for quite a while, preoccupied.
Mm-hmm. And so...
And should have been. Yeah.
Right. But since 1913, we've had that central bank. And surprisingly, all the good things that were supposed to come, like no recessions and, all the promises.
And preserve the value of the
dollar.
Of our currency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just quite the opposite. 97% erosion of the value of a 1913 dollar.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
So, and people are scrambling for alternative forms of money. In the 80s, we finally got gold and silver legalized, at least for personal possession. And then now it's the
NFTs.
The NFTs and the Bitcoin and blockchain revolution to try and find some way to make the financial system more decentralized and more, not financialized so much. The American system is overly financialized in a lot of people's opinion. It's just too much to do with
so you're using
derivatives
you're using that as an adjective,
right?
And you mean by that it's just become too sophisticated for the average people to understand how to control it, control their own destiny.
Well, that's part of it, but I'm thinking more of this just too much speculation. Not that speculation is bad, but there's too much speculation, I think. Too much centering around financial derivatives is what we saw with the mortgage crisis.
Sure, absolutely.
When the derivatives crashed. Yeah. So, and there's, we're going to be accused of being meanies, but
are we?
There's one specific ethnicity that has a tremendous talent for devising all of these financial schemes.
Yeah. It is a very sophisticated process that the financial markets now are capable of wielding, and it's upsetting.
Right.
It's quite concerning.
Omicron, of course, is spreading, although I've seen some data that suggests in Northern California, rural California, and Washoe County, it's not spreading quite as fast, but it's probably going to hit here pretty hard, too.
I think it has no limit, really.
Right.
But to finish up on Raffensperger, there were 242 stuffing ballot traffickers.
242.
This is America Matters Media
on AM 1180 KCKQ,
a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Okay, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and I'm here with Leland Faegre, and Shanimal Lawson is behind the board. And so another thing we could look at predicting is that the COVID Karens are starting to fade away. The incident with that woman on an airplane where she pulled down her mask to berate an elderly passenger for not wearing his mask properly, in her opinion.
But I think she was using it as a press release, wasn't she? Former Playboy model.
Yeah, that's true, but that's former.
It was quite a display of
but it's
indecency.
But then COVID Karens like Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and others caught vacationing maskless in red state Florida.
Well, she handed DeSantis his next campaign ad, didn't she? By going down there.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that not being exploited to DeSantis' benefit. But it makes you wonder just how stupid she is. Because we've always assumed she was like a third grader anyway.
Right.
But unless she's got something really craftily set up for that excursion down to Florida, that was really a dumb thing.
exactly.
I don't see how she can spin that any other way.
It was kind of dumb to poke fun at her boyfriend's feet. He's wearing sandals.
What did she say about that?
She said, well, she countered, but I'm just saying the tweets criticizing him for wearing sandals in Miami was
I didn't even see that.
kind of dumb. But yeah, but basically she's down there.
Isn't that what you do in Florida?
Yeah.
You
I
bare
would
your
think
legs
so.
and wear sandals.
Especially if you're from the Northeast. But anyway, so the damage of I think that truth-telling doctors like Dr. John Campbell are starting to gain traction, and the more that blue check Dems actually get Omicron, no matter how vaxxed they are, and easily survive, and probably gain natural immunity from it, I think the Fauci cult will start to slowly fade away.
I think that's already happened.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to prop
There's
them
no
up.
more basic medical right than deciding what we inject into our bodies.
Well said.
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Rand Paul.
And the left is running into a buzzsaw of their own making as far as the next election. And one of the things we're seeing is the left's coalition of the fringes. The way they take all these different minorities and try to, link them all together so that they can win.
Right.
That's starting to unravel too.
That started to unravel in 2020.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
it's accelerating.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is accelerating.
First of all, I think it was a mistake to elevate America's blacks as the centerpiece of equity. Because, frankly, sure, Americans love individual blacks, and if Michelle Obama ever runs for president, she may actually win.
Was Michelle Obama black?
Yeah.
I know. I don't know what they're thinking.
Blacks
it's
are
despotism.
Yeah, they're not liked enough as a group to assume that mantle of control as the centerpiece of American society that they're being pushed into, and or they're pushing themselves into.
Well, didn't Biden do the same thing with Hispanics too?
He tried, but that's the thing. The coalition,
Latinx.
because people are getting tired of the systemic racism claims and moral outrage and all of this,
And they don't want to be associated with illegal behavior.
right.
Which is what the migration on the border is. And so the Hispanics, they want to be, we came here legally. We're upwardly mobile. We're Americans.
Right.
We don't want to be associated with that.
Right.
Don't lump us with those people.
And, it's going a little too far. I mean, St. George Floyd, we could maybe tolerate that a little bit, but now the woke artists are portraying George Floyd as Jesus. As actual Jesus,
And wasn't there an image of or something that was stolen at one of the universities?
I think, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. That was just last week.
Okay. But, the
as
idea
Jesus.
that George Floyd overdosed on fentanyl, to die for our sins.
Right.
It's kind of absurd.
It's a reach.
Yeah, it is.
Well, so was this image that was stolen. Apparently, George Floyd was depicted as a Jesus character, and somebody stole that image, or I'm not sure what it was. It was some sort of an artistic piece.
Yeah, American people just have too many negative impressions with black people as a group. Not as individuals again, but as a group, and the making heroes of criminals and wholesale looting will tend to do that.
Well, they love the collective, don't they?
Yes, that's what they're all about.
They can't do it any other way.
And like you said, Hispanics and Asians are starting to feel like second-class citizens in the new normal. I mean, again, tensions between blacks and Hispanics has always simmered primarily over competition for jobs, right? And then for Asians, the problem is worse. The problem is attacks by black muggers, as well as attacks by black rioters on Asian businesses, as well as affirmative action that robs Asian youth of their education and jobs that they should merit due to their natural intelligence and their hard work ethic. And that, they're being robbed of that. And that's what's causing resentment. when you try and cobble these minorities together.
You know, I'm thinking Biden's polling could be a drag on Democrats in November.
It could be.
You can hear the chants from the crowd.
Yep, there they
Let's
are.
go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brendan.
And now the Jews, again, they're closest to the blacks in the woke hierarchy, and you know they idolize the blacks in public. But many blacks see them as their interest in them as self-serving rather than altruistic. And to many black people, the Jews are just whites with a lot of money, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And we saw that in the housing problem in New York City a couple of years ago. So another thing is, when they weren't talking about the blacks, they tried to make transsexuals the centerpiece of equity along with blacks.
They did?
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, Elizabeth Warren, we're going to talk about her a little bit later.
God.
Yeah, she was running around
I
saying...
can't wait to talk about her.
She was saying
Trans girl is a girl.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Yeah. She was running around saying that that she was going to make sure that the next head of the Department of Education was a transsexual.
Yeah.
You know? And so American people...
Because we've already got one cabinet head
Right.
transsexual.
Right. Well, she's not a...
Well, she looks good in the uniform anyway.
Yes, she's an admiral. We can remember that.
That's right.
You know, and if they had just said that Rachel Levine is the first transgender admiral, I don't think anybody would have said anything. But they insisted on saying she is the first woman admiral, even though she's not a woman. Mm-hmm. And this is the mass hysteria that we have seen inflicted upon us when highly educated professional people are arguing about whether a man can have a cervix or not.
We choose truth over facts.
How far down the ladder do we go on that one? Yeah. Without hurting our backs?
So, and now recently the Transsexual Rights Legal Collective, I think that's what they call it, but it's basically the law firm for the transsexual rights movement, issued a report admitting that trans athletes and women's sports is a losing proposition for them.
Huh.
Sure, I mean,
I've noticed that.
Yeah. In England, the TERF movement, that is transsexual accepted radical feminists, the TERFs.
Yeah, we've talked about them.
Yeah, they're gaining steam, and they've been appearing on media, significant media over there, and they can't be canceled. They have some strong spokeswomen there, and this whole thing is like, it's compounded, don't you think, by the lockdowns and the isolation that a lot of people have been feeling. But it's like a mass hysteria that has arisen in Western culture.
Well, it's been foisted on us.
Yes.
It's meant to do that.
But people have adopted it.
They have.
Yeah.
Because I think the elites know fully well just how capable they are, how adroitly they can play us like a fiddle. And this is really another example, maybe, perhaps the most sophisticated example of it in my lifetime, where they've taken what amounts to a bio-warfare opportunity and slapped us all in the face with it.
Mm-hmm.
CNN Tonight, brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know that the CNN mentioning Pfizer, they named the chief executive of Pfizer as their CEO of the year.
Yeah.
Albert Bourlas, I had his name. In his acceptance article about him, he apparently said that there are some cynics out there that think that our involvement with the vaccine is simply about getting money, or words to that effect.
Yeah, he actually dropped it into the conversation.
He did.
I know.
I'm not a cynic but I'm a skeptic, and that's kind of what $38 billion in the cash register means to me.
And this is just one area of their market that they control. There's so much more to it. I wanted to give a shout out to Tim Gibson, who's a loyal listener and comments frequently on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
For Time Gets Voice.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsythe Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. And I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. I'm here with Leland Faegre, and we've been talking about whether the coalition of the fringes that the Democrats cobbled together will be able to withstand continued scrutiny and this year, and the conclusion so far is probably not.
That's a safe bet, I think.
Yeah. So one of them is Senator...
I'll tell you what they are doing, though, just as a postscript to that. The redistricting.
Yes.
That's where the mischief is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon's already, I think, picked up 2 Democrat seats up there.
Well,
they just gerrymander them around, and
they're going to do that. The blue states have been losing people to the red states,
right, in population, but they're still picking up seats.
Are they?
Yeah, that's
because they're cleverly redrawing those maps.
These people are not stupid.
No,
they're very crafty.
They're not stupid when it comes to their own power,
their own destiny.
Right? Yeah. Well, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. She got into a Twitter match with Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and other enterprises, well known.
He's pretty good.
Yes,
he can spar with the best of them.
He's kind of based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Musk called her Senator Karen. We were talking about Karens in the last episode.
Yeah. Right. I think what that revealed about him is that he really is up to speed here. He is following this trend. And I was surprised by that, actually.
Well, she accused him of being a typical CEO that's not paying any taxes.
Oh, no, it was a reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I mean, just the extent to which he articulated his opinion and sort of used their language to throw in their own faces. I think that was beautiful. It was really good.
But he sold a lot of stock, so he is paying probably more taxes than anybody in America this year.
Well, but not in Texas.
No.
Because that's where he lives now.
All right, but Jonathan Turley, again, that legal scholar that is so often full of wisdom, took her to task for explicitly in an article urging the Democrats to pack the court with liberals because the court is voting against widely held public opinion. That's actually a feature, not a bug, of the Supreme Court.
That's the definition of democracy, as the framers understood the word.
Exactly.
Mob rule,
Yeah.
Which way the wind blows, that stuff,
Yeah. And it's always when you agree with the mob that, that you're going to be trying to, gain more power through this mob action.
And they use that word democracy pretty much liberally, pardon the expression. Because they think it sounds so sophisticated. And their constituency is so stupid, they don't realize the word isn't found in the Constitution.
No.
It was a pejorative.
Exactly.
It was meant to be a pejorative. They spoke of it in whispers.
If you read the Federalist Papers, of course, you find that out.
And I don't think, I'm going out on a limb here, but I just don't think their constituencies understand that.
Shut up and take my money.
Now, also in the news, the Boston Globe published a story by a professor at the University of Miami named Mary Ann Franks, whose purpose stated that we need to redo the First and Second Amendment because they're too aggressively individualistic amendments.
Don't you hate that?
I know. That darn individualism.
That individualism thing is really kind of a party pooper.
So she says that we should ground the first two amendments in what she believes are more collectivist sentiments of the Constitution, namely the Domestic Tranquility Clause and the General Welfare Clause.
I knew they were going to go to that. Yeah.
Yeah, they always go to that one.
Oh, hell no!
So here is her proposed bright, shiny new First Amendment. Every person has the right to freedom of expression, association, peaceful assembly, and petition of the government for redress of grievances, consistent with the rights of others to the same and subject to responsibility for abuses.
Mm-hmm.
So no longer the Congress shall write no law respecting the freedom of speech and assembly.
They'll write any damn law they want to.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Then the Second Amendment simply replaces the right to bear arms with the right to an abortion.
Way to go, a-hole!
Well, she's got an IQ just barely above a plant, it sounds like.
All people, this is hers again, all people have the right to build autonomy consistent with the right of other people to the same, including the right to defend themselves against unlawful force and the right of self-determination in reproductive matters. The government shall take reasonable measures to protect the health and safety of the public as a whole. Don't you love it when you talk about reasonable government?
Right,
you know?
right.
Inconceivable!
People's welfare. Well, I am concerned about that trend of a potential convention.
Yes,
Since
I've heard the arguments back and forth and whether or not the convention can be hijacked, but
even Hannity was signed on.
Yeah,
just brain dead stupid. You don't want these people anywhere close to the Constitution.
No.
Oh yeah.
I mean, who are you going to put in there? There are no Jeffersons around today.
And Turley points out how her freedom of speech, her First Amendment, closely resembles the Declaration of the Rights of Man in the French Revolution, which was reads as this: the free communication of ideas and opinions is one of the most precious of the rights of man. Every citizen may accordingly speak, write, and print with freedom, but shall be responsible for such abuses of this freedom as shall be defined by law.
Yeah, right. Somebody's going to decide whether it's worthy or not.
And
it's dangerous stuff.
Yeah, all countries basically have some kind of provision of freedom of speech like this, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
So
we should be like them, basically.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So instead of a Bill of Rights, she would turn the 10 Amendments to the Bill of Responsibilities and Penalties.
Oh, isn't that nice? How do these people get positions of leadership? That's the part that I
know. They get into universities, they become judges, they become politicians. I don't know.
We like the way you think.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
So, the woke parade is continues on, but little children on the sideline are noticing that the emperor doesn't have any clothes, I guess. Yeah. So.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
So they're out to destroy the country as we know it.
Yes, they are.
And
they're not even ashamed of it. They don't cloak it anymore. They don't disguise it anymore. It's just right there for you to see.
Mm-hmm. Everything that we have done in building Western civilization is not worth a darn because we angered some transsexuals and some other wokes.
Right.
We insulted them. We didn't respect them. So, and we didn't respect the George Floyds of the world either. I don't know. But the people that are going to rise up, as long as the Republicans adhere to the DeSantis and Trump approach. As long as they talk common sense and limit the power of the government, they'll do well. But, the problem with the electoral process, there's a libertarian historian, Robert Higgs, and he wrote a book that called Crisis and Leviathan, which is even I actually took a poli-sci course in UNR where they actually assigned the book, but I took it too seriously, so they marked me down.
Same thing happened to me.
But the general thesis is, just like Rahm Emanuel says, never let a crisis go to waste. When there is a crisis and the government assumes new powers, and then there becomes a resistance to that, and the resistance wins, a lot of the new powers never go away. They're still there.
Right.
So they ratchet up the government power, the resistance comes in, and they lower the power, but at the same time, they tend to consolidate it. They trim it here and there, but they leave the general premise intact. They can't get at the root. They can't hack it back down to where it was before. So I'm all for the red wave, but I'm a little bit cynical about how much the Republicans, if they do get into power, will be able to actually reverse the...
Well, that is the concern, yes.
Right.
I mean, you've got the Dan Crenshaws. You got all these neocons in place, in and outside of government.
Right.
And they're going to protect their own. So that's the concern, is that the American people won't be able to discern the difference between a genuine patriotic movement and someone who labels themselves a Republican, like Lynn Cheney, for example.
Right.
It's perfect. The best example. Whose father was a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Oh, yeah.
So she's no patriot. She's a globalist by definition.
Getting to know you.
Let me tell you about America Matters with Eddie Floyd. It comes on every Monday at noon. Don't want you to miss it. That's America Matters with Eddie Floyd.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and my co-host, Leland Faegre. And we mentioned the neocons in the last segment, and, we have to watch out for that philosophy wherever it appears in the conservative movement. And it's an excellent example was the Newsmax anchor Grant Stinchfield. And he looks and sounds like a rock rib Republican, right? He's got that square jaw and everything, and But he brought neocon Dick Morris, and Dick Morris happens to be Jewish. He's a big supporter of Representative Jerry Nadler, who is the poster boy for New York City Jewish politicians. And he came on to...
and he was a Clinton confidant.
Right, he was a Clinton confidant.
Very close to his inner circle.
Right. So, but now he's a cuck-servative, as I would say. He's a cuck-servative.
Just want to be sure the FCC heard that correctly.
Yeah. Well, the term is used by you can call people rhinos. That's more polite. But if you're going to use the term conservative, it's I don't know whether I can go into this. There's a genre on porn, and it's been in the news because a conservative figure has been revealed to that appears on the Tim Pool show. He apparently is into this, and that's been a minor scandal in a teapot. But it's when somebody who's married to or the boyfriend of a woman has somebody else over, and in order to watch them have relations, and often that in the porn industry, it would be a black
You mean like
male.
dessert and coffee, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I'd like to watch, that sort of thing.
So they turn on the TV and
Yeah. But anyway, a conservative is one that's willing to let the American working class get raped and enjoy watching it. So, but he's into.
Well, there's a whole bunch of those.
Yeah. So he's into came on to blast Tucker Carlson because Carlson once again dared to try to understand Russian interests. What is the Russian? What do they perceive as the world to be? Mm-hmm. And instead of just looking at through completely through the eyes of the American power elite. So according to the neocon thinking, Putin is another Hitler, and he's just eager to gobble up the Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, the Baltic nations, and the U.S.
They got to save NATO. NATO must be saved.
I don't have anything new for you on that.
Remember Adam Schiff got up and during the impeachment and said we have to stop Putin over there so we don't have to stop him over here. Mm-hmm. And so
they use that just incessantly.
Right.
It's embarrassing.
I know. I think Colonel Vindeman, or President Vindeman, was in the news recently saying, criticizing us for abandoning the Ukraine and saying we should send large weapons into the Ukraine, which is exactly what Putin said would trigger a war.
Because he's a Ukrainian Paul.
Yeah.
So you would expect him to.
Well, the Ukrainians have invited him to be their Minister of Defense several times.
Yeah. I don't know what's keeping him.
So to people like Dick Morris, it's always 1939. It's always appeasement. You're going to appease him. And so even Lindsey Nelson mentioned 1939 that same day on another interview that this is the worst I feel since 1939 that the U.S. is out.
Lindsey Nelson?
Lindsey
Graham?
Senator Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, Lindsey Nelson said, stop calling me Shirley, so.
Well, that counts.
Yeah. What is a hospital? It's a big place where sick people are treated.
Right.
But, for the Democrats, on the other hand, the neoliberals, it's always 1959, and there are segregated water fountains, that we have to get rid of. So they just have it wrong. Tucker was not going left because he's trying to understand Russia. He's based.
I think he's better than ever. I think Tucker is just magnificent. I can't miss the show.
Yeah. And he is the only mainstream media commentator that I have seen so far, correct me as wrong, who has openly said that Russia is a conservative Christian nation and should be understood as such. And he even said if it came down once or twice, if it came down to Russia and the Ukraine, he'd probably back Russia. So
yeah, it's probably less corruption.
Yeah, exactly. So he's Putin's man, That's what they're going to call him.
Tucker?
Yeah, for being a realist.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, I will say that the attitude toward China is the same. That Tucker recently had a former Green Beret or somebody on his show who threatened violence against China and said that we need to sit on a mountain of Chinese skulls, and he didn't push back at him at all. And so he's got his own blind spot there. But
well, I take a certain umbrage to Tucker's stance on that, because I don't believe they deserve the credibility that they are getting in some circles of this discussion, this narrative.
And who is that? Who is they?
Well, the establishment.
Oh, yeah.
The Biden administration is carrying water for China. Everybody can see that for themselves. I mean, I don't have to point it out. And we often go around that here because it doesn't really need to be articulated, but it's pretty clear.
Well, I don't know if they're carrying water. I mean, Blinken...
Well, the who?
Blinken blasted China for...
oh, that's just rhetoric. I mean, in real terms, in terms of COVID-19, the origins of the lab leak, all of this stuff, which they were not open about discovery. And that's how you can tell that they're hiding something, if they're not open to discovery.
Are you talking now about China or the Dems or both?
Talking about COVID.
Yeah, COVID, but who's not open to discovery? The Dems?
The Chinese were not open to discovery. They didn't want an investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they, we can argue about that and whether or not it came from the lab in Wuhan.
And or whether it was deliberate or not.
And whether it was deliberate or not.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was deliberate.
We're not going to get to that information.
I think it's much more plausible myself. Now, I'm going to get into a conspiracy theory, but I think it's much more plausible that if anybody did it deliberately, it was the West.
It was Dr. Fauci.
It was the West.
It was Fauci.
Yeah. To unleash a virus.
And it goes back to Barack Obama.
I mean, China doesn't have any reason that I can really think of to unleash a violence on us, but we...
Yeah, but they're a convenient escape or victim that they can always point to say, blame China, when it was actually us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with that. Now I see what you're saying, Dr. Leland.
They're partners in this whole thing.
Shut up.
Yeah, right. That was Ronald Reagan from the dead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's what all this finger pointing at both Russia and China is. It's an attempt to conceal our own weaknesses that we brought upon ourselves.
They're doing everything they can to protect Collins and Fauci and all of these people that were up to their eyeballs and complicit in this horrible event.
Yes. The shutdown of the economies in
these people,
America and Europe, and yeah.
These people are not well mentally. They're not well. The idea that you would actually consider gain of function. That's all you need to know about these people.
Exactly.
What else is there?
Let's do some experiments.
Yeah. And they're doing everything they can to protect him.
Yeah.
And his pension.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his pension and even more, the lucrative contracts he's going to get if he ever does resign and goes totally into the private sector.
Well, they'll seek to protect him there, too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's got plenty of friends in that community, so.
Yeah. But the thing is that the virus was unleashed in China, however it was unleashed, whether it's natural or conspiratorial. But during their New Year's holiday, which is coincidentally when all of China is passing through Wuhan to go to different places. And also, the virus then immediately, for some reason, hit Iran really hard with many fatalities, especially among the politicians class who are old. That's one reason. But I mean, it was an extremely virulent strain that hit Iran, and that's what's causing some people to think that if anybody actually unleashed the virus, the person, if you go to cui bono, who stands to gain, it would seem to be the West that would stand to gain, not China, as far as...
not if it embarrasses Fauci and the elites.
Yeah.
See, that's who they're really protecting, is Fauci and the elites.
Or the military-industrial...
Well, and to the extent that we were complicit in that part of the operation, the episode, but again,
Fauci admitted we were doing gain of function in America, but if we were, it was according to the guidelines.
Right, and this is the guy that's killing beagles.
Well, that's according to the guidelines.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah. And also the AIDS. Gosh, I hope we have a little bit of time, but
no, we don't.
Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book is half of it is about the AIDS problem with Fauci.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary effort. I hope that does well.
Uh-huh.